Hi, my name is Rafal, and I'm here to talk you through why and how the structure of your website affects SEO. It's a very extensive topic that I could talk about for hours, but I tried to put everything within these 20 minutes that we have to explain why it's important, what you can do to make your website a little bit better on that structure to help boost your SEO. A little bit about me. I'm a marketing strategist and data analyst at digital Ethos. I studied computer engineering. My passions are SEO, strategy, algorithms, data, and maths, everything that people hate so much. And I like marketing because it's much more creative and dynamic than computer engineering. And you can see my LinkedIn here. Now, before we start talking about how to make your website better and why is a website structure important, it will be useful to talk what is a website structure. Now, website structure is how your website's pages are structured and linked together, basically. And whenever we talk about website structure, we usually talk about the navigation menu structure, so your main menu and your footer menus, the internal linking structure, so the linking from within your content, crawl depth, so how Google crawls your website, how quickly it can access different pages, topical clusters, so what kind of topics you address on your website, are they interlinked together, are they kind of grouped together based on the topic, and page and domain authority, which are still a thing, not as big as before, but it still kind of shows you whether your website has a good structure, and it gives the pages authority between themselves. Now, why is the website structure so important? First of all, it is important to talk about how Google crawls your website. So it searches the web, the internet, to find links to your website, including the links that you have on your own website to your different pages. And it chooses the most important page on your website, well, the most important pages on your website. And it starts scrolling from the one that it chosen to be the most important, which usually is the homepage. It usually has the most external links and internal links, and it's usually the start of user's journey. So when it goes to your homepage, to your main page, basically, it searches for links on that page, and then the links it finds, it goes to them, and then it searches for links on these pages, and it goes to the next pages after that. Now, another thing is the crawl depth. So when Google crawls your website, it will see the first page as, let's say, a level 0 of the crawl. Now, everything that's the next step is in a one more depth. So when it goes to your homepage and it crawls the next pages, that's the first crawl depth. Then the pages it finds after that is the second crawl depth. And then the pages it finds after that is the third crawl depth. Now, as a rule, it's usually best to contain all your pages, at least the most important pages that you want to rank, on the first two levels. Maximum, I usually say on the third, if they're like a little bit less important. But the pages that are further down are usually performing poorer in the organic search results because they're not as important on your website. If there are certain pages that the Google during the crawl cannot reach quickly, it means they're not important. And if users cannot reach them quickly, they have to go through several pages to reach a page. It means it's not very important on your website. Now, an optimized site structure or architecture helps search engines to find and index all the pages on your website. So the higher they are in the scroll depth, the better. Another thing is the topical clusters and internal linking. So a logical website usually equals a logical topical kind of clusters of information. So if you have different topics on your website, let's say you sell two different groups of things, or you have two different services, you usually want to group them together based on what they are. So if we address a topic, and then we have different subtopics coming from this topic, or different informational articles, pages around this topic, we usually want to keep them grouped together. And we can do that by interlinking them together. We can basically, whenever we write an informational article, for example, on a certain page, and we mention a topic that it's about, and it has its own landing page on the website, we can link to it from that mention. We call it an anchor text. So anchor text is a word you link from to a certain page. Now, if it's hard to imagine, you can think about Wikipedia and how they interlink the different pages. You have a page about a certain topic, and then whenever it mentions something related to it that may need another explanation, it links from this word to another page. And an optimized structure of your website will help determine what your website is about and what different groups of topics are about. So interlinking the pages together and having these clusters of different topics helps Google to understand how your content is grouped, what it is about, but also users to reach the content. Because if they're reading about a certain topic and they have any questions about it, they may want to find it in the same place they're reading about it, not somewhere completely different. Now, another thing is authority. When you internally link your pages, then the link authority, as we call it, the link juice, some call it page rank, will flow between these pages. So if we think about external links and the page authority and your domain authority, which is basically like a score of the strength of your pages and your website based on the links that it has. If we have external links coming to your website, to your homepage, usually the most natural links. Naturally, you will get some links from other websites pointing to your homepage, whatever you do. It gets page authority, and it has a certain amount of page authority. Now, let's say you created a really good article about a certain topic, and it will also get links from people that read the article and are recommending it, from people that are mentioning something from within the article because it's really informative and good, and they link to it as a source. Now, this page, homepage, will have a lot of authority, and this URL, this informational article, will get authority from the links. Now, how do we send that authority to other pages to make your domain better? We interlink it, just like with the topical clusters. We can send authority from links within your pages to other pages. So if, like we discussed before, we have this article here and we mention this topic, we can interlink to it, and then the authority will be able to flow. So as you can see here, the authority will come from the link that's on the home page and pointing to topic 1. We'll go to topic 1. It will go from this informational article to topic 1. And this page, without getting external links, will be able to have some authority and will be able to rank as well. And another thing is that whenever you're trying to get links during your SEO campaign, for example, it's often hard to get links to some service pages or category pages on your e-commerce website, for example. So it's much easier to produce really good, interesting content, send the authority there, and then kind of send it across the different pages on your website with correct interlinking. Now, how you can make the structure of your website better. First thing is the main navigation, so your main menu. It usually should consist of the most important pages on your website. Now, when you structure your menu, it's really important to make it simple but still easy to navigate and find information. So let's say you have a shop that sells different kinds of clothes and accessories, and the example that I create here is we have two categories. We have shoes and clothes. Now, if we have a main menu on a website that sells shoes and clothes, we want to put shoes and clothes in the main navigation, for example. There are many ways to do it, of course. You can have different types, but let's say this is our example. Now, obviously, this is the homepage, and it will be on that 0 depth crawl. And it's really, really important thing about the depth of the crawl. Now, all the links that will be in the menu will be the next step. So they will be in the first depth of the crawl, on the first level of the crawl, basically. And they will get a lot of authority. They'll be really important within the crawl. So they are probably the best to rank. Now, if these categories have subcategories, there are two ways you can do it, really. You can either, like some websites, send people to the page for shoes, and then within that page, you can allow people to choose different subcategories. So I'm using running shoes as an example for shoes, for example, and coats as an example for clothes. Now, if we send people to this page, and then they have to choose the subcategory, this becomes basically a second level of the depth crawl. So it has less importance than the main category. And another thing is the user experience will be longer, because you send people to a page and they have to click on another page, and it's just a longer experience, and it's harder to find information. Now, a great way to address it is a drop-down menu, for example. You can select your shoes category, and you have a drop-down menu that lists different subcategories, like running shoes, and that will instantaneously move them to the level 1 of the crawl, because straight from your homepage in this drop-down menu, you'll be able to access your subcategories. And that's one of the ways to make your subcategories rank better, especially in competitive markets. It's really hard to rank very general terms like shoes and clothes. And if you want to be able to compete and you want to rank for something, your best chance is to make sure that these subcategories, different smaller pages, smaller subcategories, are able to rank. And one way to do it is to move them higher in the crawl depth. Now, the topical clusters and interlinking we addressed. Let's use the same example here. You can have your drop-down menu, of course, and most pages usually have a blog. If you don't have a blog, that means you don't really write informational articles, but there can be a great way to kind of create this topical clusters of information and give people some kind of guidance in what they do. It really depends on what your website is about, but using this e-commerce website as an example. In order to create a good topical clusters, we can interlink pages together, as mentioned before. Now, if we are writing an informational blog about something, let's say in here we are writing a guide about how to choose the best running shoes. And this is about the topic of shoes, of course. So from within that informational content here, we want to link to running shoes when we mention running shoes. Of course, not every single time, because it will be very crowded with links. But let's say in the first 1 or 2 instances, we mention the words running shoes. We can link to this category. Now that instantaneously creates a nice structure and a nice kind of this cluster of running shoes topic. And it will, if you get any links to this page, for example, it will also send authority there. Now, if you think about this example and running shoes, I think running shoes are a very specific kind of shoes. So you can really help people to understand how they can choose the best shoes for them. Hopefully, I don't run. I'm not the expert here. But there are many different types of shops and services where you can help people choose the best item or the best service for them. And informational content is really helpful here, especially with these topical clusters. So if you really create a guide to something that is maybe hard to make a decision on or requires a certain knowledge to make a decision on, we can also, from this category or subcategory, link to a guide. Now, whether your content is somewhere at the bottom of the page or you want to have some kind of element that helps people choose and tells them, if you don't know what to choose, here is our guide. You'll create this really nice structure of first of all, helping people navigate your website, helping people find the information they need from these categories. But you also create this topical cluster of running shoes, linking to information about how to choose running shoes and help on how to choose them. And then from this place, it's easy to go back, and it's easy to go back to running shoes because you interlink to them as well. So people have a really easy way to navigate your website. Now, when we think about interlinking, it's very important to understand these architects. Like I mentioned, Wikipedia is a great example. So if we look at the carrot page here, and it mentions that it's a root vegetable, there is, of course, a page about a root vegetable category topic, and it links to it. And then from the root vegetables page, it will link back to carrots when it mentions a carrot, that it is a root vegetable. So if you think about that, you can create a really good informational content on your website, and you can create a really good interlinking structure on your website as well. I wouldn't go as far as Wikipedia goes, which is linking from every single word, but think about your services, think about what you offer, and think about what could be hard to understand for everyday user that lands on your website. If you offer some complicated services, something that isn't necessarily easy to understand, or if you offer something that people may need help with, like maybe help choosing an item, it's really good to create some kind of guides and some kind of explanations and link them from where you mention them on your pages, service pages, categories, for example, and offer people help and create this nice structure of great user experience and authority and these topical clusters. Now, another thing we can look at is the URL structure. So it is great to follow a good URL structure whenever you can. So as an example, again, this shoe and clothes shop, on the shoes category, for example, the URL structure could be very simple, just slash shoes slash, and that's your shoe structure, and that will be logical for any algorithm that crawls your website. For example, that slash shoes is about shoes, and it makes sense, of course. Then you have your subcategories of running shoes, which belongs to the category of shoes. So the structure is quite simple. We can do slash shoes slash running shoes. So you can see that this page belongs to the category of shoes and is a subcategory of running shoes, and that's logical, and it makes absolute sense. So anything about running shoes, or if there will be another subcategory, like maybe Adidas running shoes or Nike running shoes, can have another slash here and another element. Now, the question is how to structure that informational content, and really it can be done both ways. I really like whenever we have guides that are important to the category and really helpful to the user, to add a URL structure that follows the main structure here. So in this example, slash shoes slash running shoes and slash how to choose your running shoes. But of course, you can also just use a blog and have a structure of slash blogs slash how to choose running shoes. But this is something I would say is ideal, but not always possible. Now, another thing to do that you can do is create tags on your blogs, which is a really good way to structure the blog and help people find information. And if we follow this example again, we could have 2 tags on your blog, tags about shoes and tags about clothes. Now, whenever you write an article that is about clothes, you can tag it as clothes, and it will be basically within that tag. And if you talk about shoes, you can tag it as shoes, and it will be within that tag. Now, the way you can structure URL with that is slash blog, then slash tag name, so shoes, and then the name of the article, for example. And that helps to kind of understand that this is still the category of shoes and it's interlinked together. And it creates this very logical structure and cluster, and basically your information is grouped really well. Another thing that helps with the tags is that, especially on WordPress websites, for example, it's really easy to be able to, on your landing page, on your subcategory page, for example, when you scroll completely down, you have some kind of description of the category, some pictures, some kind of content there. And underneath that, you could, for example, list all of the different guides and blogs that are contained within the category, within the tag of shoes on your blog. And it will create this nice and automatic interlinking structure. So any content, any blog about shoes will be automatically displayed on this category. Of course, underneath your products, because you want your products to be first. But it will create an interlinking structure, and it will allow people to access content that is about shoes. And it really helps because you don't have to interlink everything manually, really. Now, another thing is the missing pages and redirects. So if you have a website and you change some URLs on your website, or you migrate your website, you change your domain, and sometimes you remove certain products or categories, you may have links to pages that no longer exist, or you may have redirected some pages to new pages, but left the old links there. Now, this is bad because when we think about Google crawling your website, it has a set budget of, I'm going to crawl that many pages at maximum, and then I'm going to leave and crawl another website, because it crawls billions of websites every day. Now, if we link to a missing page, Google will still crawl it, and it will waste one, I call it jump. So it will waste your crawl budget. Now, if you link to a redirect, Google will go to this page, will waste one jump, and then it will go to the actual page. So it will actually have to go to 2 pages in order to crawl 1 page, which isn't ideal. And it makes the crawl longer, makes the user experience longer, because they have to load this. It will tell the browser to go here, and it will increase the time they have to wait. So every time you redirect your pages, make sure that your links on the website point exactly to the new page that you redirect to, and make sure you don't have any 404 pages and you either redirect it somewhere or you don't link to these pages from your website. Now, in a summary, it's quite easy to plan your website structure. This may have been a very short and quick way to explain it, but if you have any issues, if you need any help, you can contact Digital Ethos, or you can contact me on LinkedIn, and I'll put you forward to Digital Ethos, and we can help you with that. But it's quite simple. So you can plan out your menu hierarchy, make it logical, make it easy to access. You can use a drop-down menu to make it easy to access things quicker. But don't overcrowd it as well. Don't put every single page on a website in your menu, because that doesn't make it easier. Just put the most important things there, like subcategories and categories. Now, split your pages by topics and group them by topics. Let your structure follow it if it can. Interlink your pages. Make sure that when you mention something and it may need an explanation, and it may send people somewhere when they can find something they're looking for, link to it. It will make it easier to access. And the most important thing is to make your website easy to navigate. Just make it as easy as possible for people to find what they're looking for. And it sometimes may be easy to you because you are within this business for 10 or 20 years and it's obvious, but try to find out how people are navigating your website, see whether they have any problems, and make it as easy as possible to access whatever they want. And of course, avoid links to missing pages and redirects to make it a much faster experience, make it a much better crawling experience as well for algorithms. That will be it. And if you have any questions, I'll be waiting for them. Thank you.